Hey guys, I have some Sazabi gameplay to go over with you from the live stream. I'm going to talk about how to play Sazabi from a perspective of the cooldowns, talk about what you should be thinking about while you play Sazabi, and just in general commentating on what this guy is doing and how you can learn from it. So, starting off, they chose to path underneath the bridge rather than over the bridge. For those of you who don't know, there's a really big open sightline main section with a bridge directly above them. That is really good for characters like GM Sniper 2 and not for Sazabi, so don't go there. If your GM Sniper 2 wants to play there, that's okay, but you don't need to go there to help them play there. There's other ways to help them out. So, in this situation, we're going to talk about something really, really important. It's called space and threat. So, space is areas of the map, right? And threat is damage and potential of dying being put onto somebody, right? So, what you have essentially is your team's space, you have neutral space, and you have enemy space. Your team space is space where your teammates can be, and they are safe. So they can stand there, they're safe, they're not being threatened for the most part. Neutral space is areas where nobody's being threatened or both sides can be threatened there. And enemy space is areas where your team cannot be. So this can come in the form of, for making your own space, it can come in the form of just standing there with a big shield. Like in Overwatch, Reinhardt creates space by just putting up a shield. And a character like Winston can also make space by jumping on a character like Widowmaker, right? So Sazabi jumping on GM Sniper. And since they can't aim down the main sight line and shoot your team, that is now safe space. So kind of a quick overlay of what that is, but to understand Sazabi, that's super, super important. You should always be thinking about what space you're making and if it's important and that kind of stuff. So in this area, we have the area where Pale Rider and Sazabi are standing. That's our team space. The area in between this like open area is neutral space, and behind where the enemy is standing and these little walls, that is enemy space. So what should you do? Your job as a main tank is to take that space. So this was good from our Sazabi player to go up and push into it. Just the execution wasn't perfect. He should have pathed from a way where he wouldn't take a bunch of damage going into it. If he comes from either side of these rocks or walks up to that wall there, then he'll be more safe. He won't take 300 damage going in. But still, overall, it's pretty good. As you can see, the enemy has to leave. And his team pushes into it, and that's really, really good. Usually, you'll have characters on your team that will help you support that space, like a Dom Trooper or a Marase, or if they add these other quote-unquote off-tank characters in the game, which in Overwatch are like Diva and Zarya and Sigma and that kind of thing, where they help facilitate you, the main tank, take the space. So another thing to think about on this section of the map here is, and this ties into the job of the Sazabi player, is to make sure that threats aren't applying a bunch of damage on your team in areas that they want to be. Your team obviously has to go from underneath here because the enemy team has a GM Sniper, and you can't go walk down main against a GM Sniper. You will just die. So what do? You path underneath. But the enemies can stand directly on top of you, and you're not safe doing that. So whose job is it to deal with that? Well, of course, it's the Sazabi's. So the Sazabi should dive on top of the characters that are standing up there. Usually there'll be more with something like this Exia here is something that you're supposed to go up and contest. So that's your job. They didn't make it through, unfortunately, but that is your job in these situations. Just play it to the best of your ability and hope your team follows up on it. Something I'll go over a lot is thinking about how many teammates you have with you at a time. After your gun tank dies here, you probably don't want to go in on that just because now it's 5v6 and you're so close to your spawn, you should probably wait. You lose exponential advantages by having your teammate not be alive. A 5v6 is way worse than it sounds. A 4v6 is really, really, really bad. And it gets worse and worse and worse and worse. So make sure that you and your team are able to snap into position, snap into pushing, snap into fighting when you need it to. All at about the same time is ideal. I know ranked goes into ranked and people do whatever they want, but yeah. So moving on to this section, they made it into the room, the one they were pushing into, and you have you have an objective here that's really nice and small. That's interesting because it really facilitates close range characters like kind of Sazabi to an extent, but really like Barbatos, Exia, yeah, those general types of characters. So you have to be aware of how to play this. Basically, what we're going to see our guy here doing is standing in the open. Like he's not in the open, but he needs to be touching a wall, basically. As a Sazabi player, you should always want to be touching a wall. If you're not touching a wall, you're going to the next wall. That is like perfect Sazabi tanking gameplay. And so right here, he's out in the open, wastes his Tomahawk. don't waste your Tomahawk. If you have your Tomahawk, and if you don't have your Tomahawk and the other, and then like a GM, sorry, and a Gundam or a Sazabi has their Tomahawk or their mace, Hyper Hammer, they will like absolutely destroy you. You can't be giving up that advantage for free. Say you're trying to contest a corner like this one that the gun tanks are standing at, and there's a Sazabi there. If he has his Tomahawk and you don't, he will throw it in your face and he will push you out. If you die, you probably will. You probably will die in that situation. And even if you don't, you have to get away because you're so low now. You can't be wasting your Tomahawk. It is to go to a location that you can't get through with your dash. And you get to choose your location because normally you can use your homing boost, but you can't choose the location. It's only to a teammate or your Tomahawk. Or it's to stun somebody with a shield that you need to kill. Needs to be using his dash to get away from here when a close range enemy goes on. The only thing that can kill you are stun targets, stun characters, so you need to be using your dashes to block those stuns and predicting them. It's really high, like, frenetic gameplay, but that's how that goes. And then he wastes his ult here. Don't waste your ults, guys. If you're winning the fight, don't ult. Funnels here just makes your ability, your stopping power to be in a position and hold a position and do damage way, way higher, so stop wasting it, you know? And only use it for positions like that. If you're trying to go in really hard, it's a good time to pop funnels. If you're trying to hold a choke really, really hard, it's a good time to pop funnels. As you can see, it's just dealing a bunch of damage on the Exia, even though he wasn't paying attention to it. This is a non-specific to Sazabi thing. Every character in the game can hover, but you don't want to be doing it all the time. It essentially makes you extremely vulnerable up in the air because you don't move as fast. Your ability to control your directional mobility is way lower. So as you're going to see, this Ashimar just gets tanked out in the air right there. So you got to be careful about that. A lot of Ashimar gameplay, if you watch it, they go up in the air because they're like, yeah, I can fly. I'm going to hover. I'm going to bring death down onto my enemies from above, but then they get absolutely destroyed. They're sitting there like, well, what happened? You're making yourself a super easy target. So be careful about that. In this situation, it is a, there's two people on his team dead. The Zaku just respawns. And so you have to be careful about how you're taking this fight. I don't know the exact circumstances, but there's a good chance that his team is losing this position. So what you would want to do is you would want to wait a little bit until your team, like until the last second, and then you can test it. So a few more seconds, few more seconds, few more seconds, few more seconds, bit more. Now's the time to go in. And that's from the macro perspective. But from micro perspective, we see him attempting to be a long range character. Sazabi is not a long range character. Don't try and attack from long range. You will just get a bunch of damage onto you. He's dealing literal tickle damage to these enemies over there, and yet he's tanking extreme amounts of damage. So don't do it. The gun tank kind of has a similar situation, even though gun tank is honestly just trash, but yeah. So here we see a lot of issues too. First issue is walking up to take a fight with 800 HP. People are going to have this situation happen to them a lot where there's not going to be that many people playing healers in this game right now because they don't think you have to, because every mobile suit has a passive regen and a lot of mobility to go get health. But every time you get damage and you have to wait for your passive regen to fully go because it doesn't heal you while you're shooting, is time that you can't fight. And every time you have to go run away from the fight, it's time that you're not in the fight. So it's a micro advantage that you get by damaging people. And if the enemy doesn't have a healer, every time you damage them, they're going to have to go run off. Every time they have to wait to go heal themselves passively, they're losing time that they can actually do stuff. So you really have to be wary of that, and you also really need to have healers on your team. So here, he has enemy search up, so he knows the Pale Rider's there. Unless I'm completely mistaken about that, but he should know where the Pale Rider is. Oh, he doesn't. My bad. But you would want to be pathing across those sort of areas that are potentially open with your shield. In a game like Overwatch, yes, there's a lot about preserving your shield health, and you don't want to give away. Your body can tank some tickle damage, and you can have it healed up, but that's really only if you have a healer accessible. If you don't, you need to shield yourself. But the rest of this is really, really poorly misplayed. He knows for sure where the Sazabi is because he has enemy search up. He can see him through the wall. And now he's just given up his best capability to either dive onto something in the enemy's backline or contest this Sazabi by throwing a Tomahawk into his face and potentially killing it. And then he's going to homing boost onto it just to waste everything. Jumps out in the open. He's good positioning here. This is safe. Boom, out in the open. Now 1, 2, 3 people can shoot him instead of 1. And he's also not even using a shield because, you know, why would we want to use a shield that protects all damage from the front of us? In these situations, you have to predict where the enemy is going to go if you're trying to chase him with Tomahawk. You only have 2 mobilities, and the XE has 5 with his standard abilities. So you can't just be expecting to kill it like chasing it, right? The objective is on the left. That is where the X is going. Very, very likely. And you'll learn this the more you play the game. Throw the Tomahawk where you expect him to be, homing boost onto it, and then you have a chance of killing it. Chasing is not strategy. Because your character can't do it. You just can't do it. That's not what Sazabi does. Yeah, you could chase another Sazabi, but even then you should still be doing what I said because it's effective. Because if you are trying to chase them, you're always 1 step behind. Also, as a side note, Super Napalm does a lot of damage. Don't walk into it. It's basically like a damage over time Diva Bomb. It's very, very powerful. Avoid it. And also, it goes through walls. As you can see, it's clipping. It's the actual bomb is on the other side of the wall. They are, by the way, breakable. So if it's like a Gundam throws it right in front of your face, you can kill it before it does anything. If you haven't seen my Sazabi guide, then go ahead and check that out. It's a Sazabi guide that has everything summarized, nice and quick and easy for you guys, and has lots of top information that you guys should know. Thanks so much for watching, guys. If you like it, then please subscribe and like the video, and I will see you guys next time.